2006 was a very good year for the Saints, coming back after Katrina, signed Drew Brees, drafted Reggie Bush, made a lot of noise. Rob Ninkovich was a player they missed on twice. Had him here once, had him here a second time, let him go. He's a good football player. They wish they had him now, but they don't. So congratulations to Rob Ninkovich, living proof that second and third chances can pay off. Ken Trahan, sportsNOLAtv. The New Orleans Saints continuing to plot and plan during the offseason. Still some moves to be made. You know they're going to make some moves with players, letting a few go. You know they're going to restructure a few. Coaching staff still to be determined long term, at least in its complete nature. And still waiting on the court scenario if in fact it happens where the ownership of the team is concerned. So where the headlines of the Saints are concerned, I think it's pretty obvious when you look at things. Roger Goodell, first and foremost, saying that Tom Benson has complete control of the New Orleans Saints. A ringing endorsement to Tom Benson. So if anybody has any doubt about his wife being vetted to own this team, think again, that's going to happen. Jimmy Graham, no shoulder surgery for now, says he's going to wait, and we'll see how that works out. And Drew Brees, stating the obvious, it was the most frustrating season that he's had in New Orleans in 2014. All right, well, let's talk about these three items briefly. Roger Goodell, as I mentioned, Brian, no doubt that he is making the case for Tom Benson's transfer of ownership to Gail Benson, isn't he?
Absolutely, and you know, and Tom and his camp is doing a very good job of promoting him out front, out center, and trying to show that the allegations are that he is mentally incapacitated are totally false, and I've believed all along they are, and I think this is coming to fruition that these are false charges.
Well, I mean, you know, just looking at the situation, I'm just sitting back, got to wait and see what happens.
Well, I mean, that's a way to take a position on it. Way to go, Rick. Wow.
You sound like me.
Special, man. What a journalist. I'm just kidding. All right, so then Jimmy Graham and surgery. Look, it's okay to wait because you still have time.
Right.
If you get, let's say, to April, and you don't like where you're at, and the team doctors don't like where you're at, you can still have the surgery and still be ready.
Kenny, I thought it was interesting that he would go to the Pro Bowl to show that he didn't need surgery.
Right.
I know this is it's a tag and release type of ball game, but still, you could perhaps do further injury to himself. But look, it's good. If that's the case, he doesn't need surgery, Ricky. That means he can continue to work out and get football ready.
Well, I mean, you know, the guy was a basketball player, so I see that, you know, just looking at Crump yesterday, the guy got a lot that he can work on. Just looking at the tight end from New England yesterday, he can work on his routes, running better. But if he hurt and he needs his shoulder fixed, he needs to get that done now, get that out the way.
Well, look at Gronkowski. He's come back from very serious injuries to his elbow and surgeries and his leg. I mean, listen, he's just tough as nails. And Jimmy Graham, I think, physically is more gifted than Rob Gronkowski. But Rob Gronkowski's the best tight end in football, Rick, because he blocks, he knows how to run routes. He's a football player, like you said. And Jimmy Graham, believe it or not, is still learning, isn't he?
Right, he's still learning, but I think that he's capable of getting that. I mean, but you got to get that work out on the field. And I think he could be a lot better route runner. I mean, he got the speed, he got the size. But if he get what Crump got to run those routes a lot better, more crisply, I think he'll be the best tight end in football.
And he also has Drew Brees and he has Sean Payton. Those are two good guys to have if you're going to be a tight end.
And they're going to get him
system.
the ball, you know what I mean? That's why sometimes when I look at the game, when they don't throw him a ball in 2, 3, 4 quarters, I'd be like, man, what's going on here?
Right.
Because, I mean, he's a great tight end.
Right.
First odds come out on Super Bowl favorites for next year. Saints are 30-1. Nothing like this past year where they were as low as 5-1 and down to 8-1, but near the top in every single category. Not this time around, so the expectations not nearly as high. By the way, Seattle is the favorite going into next year. New England is the second choice, but that's kind of what you would expect, Ricky.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Seattle should have won the ball game. Everybody know that they were in a position to win, and they didn't. So you still keep them 1, you keep New England at 2. But there's a lot of teams next year going to be fighting for those. The Colts got to come back, so a lot of those young teams are going to come back next year and look pretty good next year.
You know, I still think, I know Atlanta hired Dan Quinn officially today, and Atlanta is going to be back in the mix. But I still think the Saints are the team to beat in that division. Now, Are they 5 or 6 in the NFC? Yes, they are, and that's what the odds have shown right now. You doubt me, huh?
No, I don't doubt you, man. You know, I'm a Saints man. You know, I bleed black and gold, so I ain't gonna never go against the Saints, especially against no Atlanta. I mean, anybody in our division, we supposed to beat. I want to bust Cam Newton in the mouth next year too.
All right. Coaching changes in the NFL. 7 of those, and the last new head coach officially being hired today by the Atlanta Falcons, who hired Dan Quinn, the Seahawks defensive coordinator. They had to wait for the Super Bowl. Of course, Rex Ryan in Buffalo, John Fox in Chicago, Gary Kubiak in Denver, Todd Bowles in New York, Jack Del Rio, Rick's old buddy, in Oakland, and in San Francisco, Jim Tom Sula. Okay, so what do 6 of the 7 have in common here, Brian, as you look at that list? Anything come to your mind? 6 of the 7 new hires, what do they have in common?
Wow.
That's not it. Ricky,
No,
you want to answer
go
the
ahead.
question?
They're white.
That's not what I had in mind.
But that's a good point.
That's a good point.
That's a very good
Other than
point.
Todd Bowles, that's a good point. And maybe there's something to be said there because
Yeah.
I didn't notice that and you did.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that with all sincerity. There you go.
There you go.
6 out of 7 are defensive guys.
I'm just messing with
One
him.
offensive.
But, you know, and then Jack Del Rio, you know what I mean? He came here and got a good job here and he moved up the ranks. So a lot of those guys, they're good coaches. You just got to see how they turn out this year.
Dan Quinn goes from the 1st-ranked defense to almost the 32nd-ranked defense. He's got a big fixing job in Atlanta with that defense.
He really does.
Yeah.
And Ricky, you brought it up, so I'm going to ask you. Do you think that the Rooney Rule is working? Do you think that African-American potential candidates are actually getting a fair shake, or people are just using them to abide by the rule?
Well, I mean, they use them. I mean, it's not a foul shake, but just to see one guy get in, you know, it's good. You know what I mean? Because it's so hard now for an African American to get to be a head coach. And then you can look at the Saints coaching staff. I mean, they might have about 1 or 2 over there. You know what I mean? It just it's a buddy system, and once they get in, they give their buddies a job. They'll take a ball guy and make him out of the general manager now and all that kind of stuff, because it's their buddies. And they weren't raised up with African Americans, so they go get their buddies and bring their buddies along and get their buddies good job and good money and take care of their family. So it's just hard on the African American and pro football. And you can just look over at the Saints coaching staff and you can see what I'm talking about.
I think it might be unintentional, it might be more subliminal, but it might be there in the deeper recesses, that presence. I think there's a trust factor involved, and you're right. You have guys around you that you're accustomed to, that you feel comfortable with, and you're always going to go with that guy rather than the guy that you don't know as much about. And a lot of those guys, because you did not grow up around them in the coaching business or in life, are not guys that you know or trust because you haven't been around them.
And it go all the way up in the front office too. It just don't stop there. You know what I mean? But the change is coming. You know, you can see they're out on the field playing the game now, and they're getting more. And a couple of teams have made them as general manager. And I see it in basketball. They're really working in basketball. So I think football will catch on. It's just taking a little longer.
Sooner or later. All right, one other story in the news of great interest surrounds the Saints' biggest rivals, the Atlanta Falcons. We mentioned their coaching change and Dan Quinn coming in, but another story that is breaking that could cost them a draft pick, could cost them money, and that is about artificial crowd noise being pumped in at the Georgia Dome, including against your New Orleans Saints to open the season. Brian, is this much ado about nothing? Everybody, it seems, is looking for a competitive advantage in this league, and everybody does something, and far be it for me to say that the Saints haven't done this. I don't know that they have. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't, but apparently it's all about whether you get caught in this league more than anything else. Agreed?
Yeah, totally. And you know, I remember when the Vikings were accused of that when Morton Anderson was playing for them, and they aimed the speakers toward the opposing bench and everything like that. And it is. I hate these signs that say "make noise" that come up on the board. I mean, but you're hoping that they're not turning up the speakers, or you're hoping that they're imploring their fans to make noise.
Could you tell if there was artificial noise when you played, Rick?
Not really, but I mean, we were so loud you couldn't hear each other right beside you. So, you know, we know that. I mean, the sound just locked down on the field, so you can't really tell, you know, where the noise coming from, but your reaction is coming from the fans.
Right.
It is time now for our fun segment of the show, our sportsNOLA.com trivia question of the evening, where we try to stump you. Former LSU wide receiver Brandon LaFell scored the first touchdown of Super Bowl 49 this past Sunday. Go Tigers, right? Who scored the first touchdown in Super Bowl history? It's a great question. I actually got the answer right earlier today. So kudos to me. I got one right anyway. We'll let you know the answer when we return in just a moment with our Hot Seat segment, where we talk about the legacy of Tom Brady and who's the greatest quarterback ever on Sports NOLA TV.